famous, number one, desirable. I do what I want, when I want, and how I want it. Leave you with the one in the air, that's how I roll. I got tons of soul, I'm a true collectible. Famous, also famous, number one, desirable. I do what I want, when I want, and how I want it. Leave you with the one in the air, that's how I roll. I got change to throw, I don't care about no gold. Better, so much better, flipping incredible. Always on the floor, so they know that I still got it. And I never feel sorry, yeah, top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top of the world. When I hear him come like my fuse and then ba-bum. Later, see you later, I'm about to blow this up. You can sing my song if you want, I know you want it. It's always kinda funny, yeah, cause you know I'm a superstar on the sky to lead you on. Haters gonna hate, it's a proof of how they love.
Hey guys, I'm Si. Welcome to A.C.E Podcast Nation, the home of our originally created series, My Story, and this is a special edition of My Story Extra. We've just launched, we're three episodes into the third series of My Story now, and as an extra bonus alongside those, I've been doing these shorter live versions because I know you guys, you like the live shows, you prefer them, but just because of how these shows are and the different subjects covered, I do like to record them with the guests so that they can be as open and as honest as they like and relaxed as they like. And then if they feel that there's some stories they've talked about that they'd rather have not said in public, it's not out there live. And then we get to do these extra shows, which means you guys can ask them questions about their careers, talk about their journeys, all that good stuff. But just while we wait for the for the stragglers, the latecomers, bit of housekeeping. If you're not familiar with this series, it is unique and different to all the other series we do. This one, we take our guests from their upbringing all the way up to present day as they share stories and anecdotes, things like that. Across series 2, we had, or in the first 2 series, should I say, we had actors, footballers, broadcasters, authors, filmmakers, podcasters, fighters, and all sorts of people from all walks of life. And series 3 is absolutely no different. The tagline is very simple. It was the real conversations with real people. It's their story and their words. The video versions, you'll always find it first at youtube.com/A.C.E Podcast Nation. This third series is out on a Wednesday, 8 p.m. And if you want the audio, then of course it's the Sports Social Podcast Network. My guest this evening is obviously from last week's episode of My Story. It was a fascinating episode in itself, particularly if you're a fan of MMA, but just generally anyway. And I think it was the third episode of the third season. I've got several incredible episodes already recorded and in the books coming over the next few weeks, including tomorrow evening. We have ex-Premier League footballer Joe Riley, and then we have ex-championship contender, professional boxer, Hollywood A-lister fitness trainer, Michael Olajide Jr. is there. We've also got our very own Andrew Thompson, wrestling journalist, as well as experienced real podcast host Joe Robbins, which I filmed yesterday at Eat Sleep Media Studios, which was a lot of fun. Really interesting conversation in that one as well. But before all of that and more, I am delighted to welcome my co-host from the Danny Batten Fight Show every Sunday, 8 p.m. Tune in. A man who's fought his whole life across the world, a true legend and indeed a pioneer of British MMA, a former world champion in his own right. It is none other than Mr. Daniel Batten. How are you, my friend?
I'm good, Si, and hello there, listeners. Yeah, I'm all ready for this.
Yeah, it's going to be good, man. I'm pretty sure I speak to you and Rodri more than I speak to my missus at this point. It's unreal, and it's starting to get worrying. But no, it's been good. We obviously we recorded the episodes end of 2 weeks ago, or about 10 days ago now, I think. Like, how did you find it? Obviously, we do a show every Sunday, but we're talking about, we're talking to our guests, we're talking about different things regarding MMA and boxing and stuff like that. Like, how was it for you to kind of go back through your career and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, when you're going through it in an episode, even though it was an hour and a half long, I believe.
Yeah.
You really are just skimming the surface of everything that a career was all about. There was still so much more to be said about it. When my dad listened back at it, he goes, "Oh, why didn't you mention this or mention that?" And well, it gets almost an impossibility to start making notes of absolutely everything that's gone in your career. But that's the beauty of it, and being able to do more than one session. We could get more coverage and paint a bigger picture of what my life was about, along with my career.
Yeah, 100%, and that's what I want. These shows, they are a bit shorter, but they're live, so people can ask some questions and just sort of dig in if there's something that they sort of want to know more about or whatever it may be. Funny enough, you say about time, like obviously me and you, we weren't too restricted for time, but I do try to keep them about like an hour and a half, because otherwise I do think it gets too long for people.
Yeah.
But like I did one with Michael Olajede yesterday, and like this guy has just had this most incredible life. Like so, like it's difficult to put into words, even like speaking to you, like as someone who's been through a lot of what he's done with like fighting and stuff, but his was boxing. And of course now he's like training like proper A-list Hollywood celebrities like Mark Wahlberg and Chris Hemsworth and all these people. And that's even just at the end of his kind of story. Like he's got all this stuff with his boxing career, his life growing up. He got an eye patch because he lost the sort of use of his one eye at the end of his career when he fought Tommy Hearns. Try cramming that into an hour or like an hour and a half. You've got no chance. And it was much the same with you. Like there's so much in there. It's very difficult to fit it all into a short show. Like ultimately I could probably do like a five episode series on just you, or just guys like yourself who've got these interesting stories, who've been all over the place doing things. I'm interested though, what did your dad think that you left? What did he think you left out?
One of the first things he said was, "Oh, what about your great win out in Las Vegas?" I think it's one that he's really proud about. And I think when he's mentioned to people that he's very, very social, my dad, and when he makes discussion about the things that I've done, or he could even be my brother as well, he's had great achievements too. He likes to use it as a bragging right, I guess you would say. And he would show him the video because it was short. It's not like you got to watch 3 rounds or 5 rounds. So I went out there and won in a matter of seconds. But it's something that he's really, really proud about. Being that it was in Las Vegas, a lot of people know this as a fighting city with boxing and MMA. And the guy that he was on about was a guy called Demasio Page. Went on to UFC. I think he might have been WEC champion, or he was ranked number 2 under WEC when I fought him. But I was sent out there to lose, basically. And the story behind that was, a lot of the times in my career, I was always in shape. Quite often took fight short notice just to open up opportunities, because the opportunities were more scarce back then. I had the opportunity to take on this Demasio Page as top of the bill on a new fight promotion called World Pro Fighting. It only ran 2 events, but it had some big names on there. Gina Carino has since become an actress. She was on there fighting our very own Rosie Saxon, who is, she had an incredible career, also a former UFC veteran. So the big names on there, and I went out there expecting to lose. I had full capabilities in myself that I thought I was going to go out there to win. But the guy who was a promoter was managing this Demasio Page. And when we went up to his hotel room to sign off the contracts and finish everything off and cross the T's and dot the I's, he showed me some footages of him, and he's saying, "Well, what do you think?" I said, "Well, if you want my honest opinion, I know you manage him," and so on and so forth. I said, "This guy is not going to get at the first minute if he thinks he can take me down and ground and pound like that, because this is a guy that can wrestle, that don't know how to do ground and pound to shut down a jiu-jitsu guy." I said, "I will armbar or triangle this guy immediately." And that was sort of like my consensus in my interview that I did. In my prediction, I said this guy will not get out of 1 minute of the first round, quite simply because the guy was unable to strike with me. I felt I knew he could out wrestle me, but I also knew I was better on the ground. And this was a lot of how my career was. I was a better striker than most people that I'd fought, and I was a better grappler than most people that I fought. I wasn't always the greatest wrestler. It was one weakness and one hole I had in my game. So the fight went. I landed 1 leg kick. Demasio went in some hard hands to try to create height to my head so he can enter in on my legs and hips, and indeed he got the takedown that I didn't fight too hard. But as soon as he went into the ground and pound, he'd done a thing called tabletopping, where you have your legs almost straight and your back is bent over and you're using your hands to strike down like so. And it wasn't long before I noosed up that armbar. And when I got the armbar, I had to transition into a sweep. And then from that side control position that ensued from the sweep, I nailed the arm. And I think his elbow got dislocated because he was unable to fight 2 weeks later. He was arranging to have a fight on KO, I think it was called, for a title fight 2 weeks after. So I was very much a warm-up fight for him, but I kind of was a spanner in the works. And yeah, the whole thing was set up for this guy to win, but he didn't. And it was a proud moment because it's not often that I can predict any fights. As you know, I've not been great at predicting fights, and I was never necessarily great at predicting my own, but that was one that I predicted that I'd win in under a minute, and I actually did that. So very, very proud of myself. But just a note about this gives you an idea of how crazy some of my situations was, taking fights short notice. I was actually 2 weeks before that on a 2-week holiday with my parents, my lady at the time, with my kids. We went to Mallorca, and I got this fight notification literally a day or two before leaving. So I had to go and have my holiday because it was all paid for. But the whole holiday I was running on the beach and doing sprint training and using my time in the sea to swim and get my cardio up, get my weight down. But it was an absolute nightmare because you have to do eye tests, brain scans, and I had to pay for it all out there. I had to do it privately out there. There was no other way of doing it. So there's me and my dad driving around trying to, with this language barrier, being in Mallorca, trying to find ways of getting all that needed to be done to go and fight out and satisfy the commission in Las Vegas. So there was a lot gone into getting me out there, and it was a case of I landed my flight at the airport and then literally went and got another flight out to Las Vegas. That's how it was. And I had the most horrendous weight cut for the fight. I had to cut 9 kilos. Ended up with terrible stomach the next day because of cutting weight wrong. And to be honest, I don't think I would have won this fight had it gone out that first round. I was just in no fit state. In fact, there was a little delay to me coming out because as I was standing behind the curtain to come out for this fight, my stomach started churning again. And I just said, listen, I've got to go to the toilet again. And they said, well, okay, go and run back. We'll let the intro play a little bit. And they did. So there was a delay. If anyone wanted to ever take time out to watch it, I think it is up on my dad's Facebook. There was a long time before I come out. And it was because I had to nip to the loo. Honestly, I was just in no fit state to go more than one round. So I was all in it to try and blast this guy, either with leg kicks or with a submission. Unfortunately, for my situation there, I managed to nail the submission pretty quick.
Well, mate, that's not one you want to. You don't want to be known as the fighter who was caught short, do you? So
no, and it really could have been the case. It so could have been.
A couple of questions straight away. Donna says, Danny, have you ever had any addictions, drugs, drink, smoking, etc.?
Nothing at all. Although I do have an addictive personality, not to anything like alcohol or drugs. No, it just doesn't interest me at all. Even to a point, you get a lot of people these days going into the gym, they all take pre-training shots to motivate them to train. To me, music will do that. I'm very easily self-motivated. I'm a happy, positive guy pretty much most of the time. I do have my down moments like any human, but for the most part, I'm highly energetic, highly positive to a point where it can be annoying to those closest around me. So yeah, I just feel no need to do that. I'm more addictive as in I get into things and will totally research the hell out of it and get into it. And but I do have fads. So something could last a matter of months and something could last years, and something stay with me for life, like possibly the MMA. I do get transfixed on things of interest to me.
Yeah, interesting, isn't it? Interesting. Gaz says, Danny, have you ever had guys try to test you in a pub or a street when they've had a few beers? And obviously, as the kind of former world champion, the MMA fighter, maybe when you were younger, like guys want to try their luck with fighters you sometimes find in pubs and things? Or were you quite fortunate in that?
No. I went through my scrappy stage, which I touched on in the previous podcast, and no, not really. that was never really the case. The only incident that comes to mind was when I was coaching at Total Dojo in Milton Keynes in Bletchley, and we had a guy, real tall young lad. I sort of saw him grow up, very, very tall, like 6'5", and he was known as a bit of a bully. I'm pretty sure he's banged up now, and he come in saying, look, I want to come in and train, but I want to spar. Who's the coach? And I said, oh, that'll be me. And he goes, yeah, I don't want to muck about. I want to see what kind of coach you are. I want to get in and spar or fight in the cage. This was literally in the afternoon. I was doing a 1-to-1, and I just said, look, yeah, we could do it now if you want. I could pad up and glove up and go straight in there, because I was pretty confident this kid didn't know anything about martial arts. Didn't come across as the brightest spark. But he goes, no, we'll pick a day and we'll pick a night and I'll come up. And I'm like, okay. But it just never happened. That was about the only thing. It wasn't too much of an exciting story. I never really saw the kid too much after that. And like I say, I think he got pretty much banged up not long after. But he was someone that bullied younger kids when they was on their bikes and stuff like that. He was a bit of an idiot, but a big lad, and I think the size of him had pulled him through in life in a way to give him false confidence. But yeah, that was about it. But I've certainly not been tested in a way. But to be honest, I've never been one to overly go out after my teenage years. I was never, like I say, a big drinker in terms of going to the pub on any kind of regularity. I would occasionally go out to celebrate something and go to pubs and clubs and just have a real good time. Not my thing to be around those environments where someone would perhaps want to push me to be tested.
Yeah. Interesting, because I like, obviously we speak to a lot of fighters, and I think that's something, particularly like younger fighters who tend to maybe be in the pub environment in between fights and stuff. I think they do get quite a lot of that, like where people have had a drink, and of course there's like a bravado thing, isn't it? They want to be the person who's going to kind of take down the MMA fighter or the boxer or whatever it may be. And look, they just so often they get embarrassed, and it gets worse then because they've been embarrassed as well as showing off because they've had a beer, and it's unfortunate.
Yeah,
I guess it comes to the territory a little bit.
I could imagine it might more so happen to the young community of fighters these days, quite simply because
social media, and cameras and stuff.
And as well, because they're so much younger now coming into MMA, you've got people having successful MMA careers and they're not even 25 yet. Yeah. So, to go out to a pub or to go to a nightclub every now and then, once in a while, is probably something that they would do more so because of their age. I come into MMA at the age of 26. So by the time I got any kind of trajectory in my career, I'd got 2 children, a family, and I was the sole earner in my family. So I had to be very serious. Yeah, totally different situation. So I'd never really exposed myself to that sort of thing. But absolutely, it could have happened had I been in those environments too. But yeah, never happened to me, and I'm happy about that.
Yeah. Couple of other questions was, are you interested in any other sports other than MMA?
Yeah, well, I've come in and out of interest of boxing, and I've got more into boxing since we've been doing our podcast and listening to Ben Doherty. He kind of really blew my mind, as I think he did you. We both discussed off air and on air how this guy can just fire off fights from the fights from the dates, how many rounds, what the scorecards was. It's absolutely. You could even tell you probably the weather in the locations with the guy absolutely blew me out the water, and I'm kind of curious about the character of Ben Doherty, to a degree. I was actually messaging him today about getting a book signed and having it sent over to me. Yeah. And he's agreed to do that. So big thanks to Ben Doherty if he does take time out to listen to this. I've got his book coming. It's going to have his signature on it, and I can't wait to read about it and find out more about the man that we're podcasting with.
Indeed, mate. Yeah, he's and like I said about Michael Olajide earlier, that's Ben put me in touch with him.
Sure.
Obviously, he's gonna try and help me get us some more boxers, because obviously a lot of the fighters that me and you know between us are kind of MMA fighters. I know a couple of boxers, but generally our contacts are more MMA based.
Sure.
We do want to talk boxing as well, but in
terms of other sports, I always wanted to be a runner. When I was a young teenager, I'd do a lot of sprinting, and so I like to follow the Olympics. Obviously, I never become a runner; my legs were too short. But I really do like to watch the Olympics, the World Championships, and I have a real avid interest in both the female and the male sprinters. Really like watching pole vault as well, particularly the females pole vault, because there's still a lot of records being broke with the females, so it's always exciting to watch. And if anyone that does watch the athletics, the female sprinters in recent years has just been off the chart. There've been several women breaking records left, right, and centre. It's been really exciting seasons with the female sprinting.
Yeah, it's been really interesting, mate, haven't it? It's
Yeah.
Donna says, do you support a football team?
No, I don't. I don't really follow football in any big way. I will follow England, you know, when it's like Europeans and Worlds and stuff like that. I do take an interest then. My brother was always heavily into football and still follows it today, as my son still follows it as well. And my brother was into Liverpool at the time. So naturally, I suppose whenever someone said to me, oh, who do you support? I'd say Liverpool, largely because I was just following my big brother. But it was never something that over interested me. I did briefly play for a team as a kid, but it was never my passion to do it. Whereas my brother's quite big on it and would play football and do sports to a higher level generally than I ever did.
Stuff. And have you ever lost a fight that wasn't a professional one?
Yeah, I lost 2 semi-pros, if that counts. So back when you started out your career in like the late 1990s, you know, through to about 2001, 2002, I guess, there were some amateur events which were done on open mats that I did at Stanchbury here in Milton Keynes, and that's how I first clapped eyes on John Kavanagh, and you know what kind of impact I started to get a sense that he would have, and also Ian Freeman. You know, we're going back a little bit here, but Ian Freeman was one of the first successful British fighters who beat people like Frank Mir. One of the best ground pounders the sport's ever seen, Ian Freeman. He started out on these amateur events as well, run by Lee Esdell at Stantonbury and Milton Keynes. I did that, and you would have 3 fights in one day. And then after the amateurs, I then went on to a format called semi-pro. It just meant you got a bit of money. I think you get like about 50 quid. And I actually lost twice at semi-pro, largely because it was so unregulated. I turned up to fight on a show called Grapple and Strike. So some of the older community who's been interested in MMA will remember what this format was. Again, on an open mat, you basically did MMA on this open formatted mat. And I fought one of the guys who was the promoter's top boy. And when we arrived there, we were like, oh, he looks big. He was quite a bit shorter than me, but looked huge. And we're like, you know, what did he weigh in at? And he goes, well, we didn't weigh him in because we know he's on weight. And we said, well, we ain't got a set of scales here. Like, oh, they've been put away. It was bizarre. But Lee Astle went and got a set of scales. Oh, it was shady. Lee Astle said, well, I've got a set of scales in my car. You know, can we just weigh him in? He weighed in at 75 kilos. Bear in mind, this was a 70 kilo fight and I was about 64. So I had to give away over 10 kilos to this guy. I remember we exchanged leg kicks and I was known as a bit of a kicker. But I remember kicking his leg and it was kind of bounced off. And when he kicked me, he put me off my feet. And I knew I was going to be in for a rough days competing. So, yeah, I actually lost both my semi-pro fights because it was so badly regulated, and I was just giving away too much weight, being that there was no weight division lower than 70 kilos at the time. And with the bad regulation, you could be fighting people 7-8 kilos bigger than yourself. It was just the way it was done. And what happened was the guy said, oh, I'll bung you another 50 quid to take the fight still. And I was like, yeah, you know what? I got caught for speeding going down to the event. Being the unorganised me, I was running late and got caught for speeding as well. And I thought, you know, I could do with extra 50 quid to pay the pending fine that I was going to have. So, yeah, that was how that went. But when I went pro, you could pick your fights a little bit better. You can actually make a study of who you're up against. And that's really where I started to have successes because I could strategize a little bit more. Yeah, it's better regulated. I'd know a little bit about who I was up against and I'd have a game plan and so on and so forth. And yeah, things went on better from there.
Still, it's a bit naughty, isn't it? That weight thing with the like fighting someone and saying, "Oh yeah, we haven't got the weighing scales," and that shows how badly,
really bad
run it was back in the day. And that's what when I say, like, I obviously introduce you as a legend of MMA every week, which you know is an absolute fact. Like people like yourself and Lee Remedios and John Kavanagh, people like that, you changed the game for fighters today, like in terms of taking MMA in Ireland and UK forward, but also like you really pioneers for British MMA. And I feel like without guys like yourself and you know all the behind the scenes guys at the time as well, like if it wasn't for you guys, we would have been where France was in relation to MMA still in the more current era. So I think sometimes guys like yourself don't get the credit that you deserve, perhaps from the outside world, shall we say. But Gaz says, on the subject of athletics, did you see the trans swimmer who's breaking all the ladies' swimming records? She won a race the other day by 38 seconds.
That's right. Yeah, she did.
What's Danny's thoughts on that as a fan of
Yeah.
Olympics and athletics?
Yeah, we have discussed this a couple of times, haven't we, on our podcast?
Yeah.
And I'm dead against it. I would really like to and be happy to hear the views for this kind of situation that's coming into sports more prevalently. We recently had that Laura Hubbard, I think is her name as well, powerlifter that recently competed in Olympics that was formerly a man. I don't agree with it. I think it's just going to decimate female sports. I mean, female sports have always been behind men in terms of their attention, exposure, and financial support. And I think in the recent times you're actually seeing it begin to level up. But now for this to happen, it's just gonna do it so much harm. Look, I'm not saying that transgender people can't compete, but surely we could try to create a new category for them to compete in. I just don't think it's a good thing.
It's problematic, I think, isn't it? I think is my one of my issues with it is that women's sports, particularly athletics, are so massively underfunded in terms of the grants they get to support grassroots level athletics. And then when you've got people coming in who are then breaking records at those grassroots levels by just amounts that will never be broken unless it's a similar situation. They'll never be broken by the girls who will have been training for years since they were 6 or 7, day in, day out after school, not going out with their friends, dedicating their life to swimming or running or whatever it is. Like, those girls won't get near those records ever.
No.
And I just think that's a real shame. Now, that's not to say that I don't think transgender people should be able to compete, but I agree with you. Maybe it's the time to bring in a male, female, and then a transgender category in the same events. So you don't have to isolate them into like a separate event. So you just bring in an extra event, an extra category. So you've got as part of the same event, because I just feel like it's not going to do anyone any good. It's gonna decimate women's sport. It's gonna make people more likely to turn against transgender people, which is something which obviously as a society the majority of people are trying to avoid. Is trying to be more inclusive to people from sort of backgrounds which are they feel isolated and things like this. Like, we're trying to be more inclusive with sport and with everything in society generally. And I feel that in the long run, if you try and force it, like I do feel it's a bit forced now, it's going to have a detrimental effect on that, because people will resent it. People will resent those records being broken, and you see it to a minor degree now. But like, if you look 10 years into the future, if it carries on the way it is now, I feel like when all those records are gone, people will be really, really upset and really frustrated, because it will have just decimated women's sport. But, like you said, like, I would love to be able to get someone on who can kind of give the opposing view or speak about it from the other side of things.
Yeah. I mean, forgive me if I'm wrong, but we mentioned Lee Remedios, but I think Lee Remedios is an advocate for allowing this. I think. I don't,
because when I had him on, we had a question about it, and I was very early into my podcasting days, and I was really, really uncomfortable talking about it, because I didn't want to upset anyone. And he kind of just took over the conversation and said he said, it's fine, I'll talk about it. And he kind of, detailed all the various aspects of it, and he speaks very, very well. So that was really interesting. I want to kind of fly through the questions, Red, just because I want to keep it like a short, sharp show.
Sure.
And I know you've got to obviously go back to work and things like that. Donna says, do you own the gym that you're at now?
No, I don't own it. The guy who actually owns it is a guy called Greg Lum, and I've kind of in partnership with him for about, 12 years now. And the way that partnership works is when we first had a discussion about sort of coming together and working together, he said about using my name and my capabilities of producing a fight team to add to the advertisement and the I suppose the prestigious name that will become of the BST Academy through the success of our fight team. So yeah, I mean, obviously I'm not a business-minded guy at all, whereas he was. He started to draft out what kind of plans he had as kind of like a 10-year plan, which we've hit that and gone beyond now, and back me fully in trying to produce the fight team that I always wanted to do. I always said I could produce a world-class fight team if I had the backing and the facilities, basically, needing a cage, needing other coaches to back up. You can't do it all on your own these days. You need other coaches and assistant coaches. So that's kind of how we work with it. But in terms of all the financial input, although I've obviously inputted myself, this guy called Greg Lyon is the one that's largely put all the foot of the cost in. And there's been a lot invested in this gym. It's 50,000 square feet gym. So much work has gone into it. And indeed, we'd have me and Greg here 15 hours a day, 7 days a week for many months to get this open in time, because at the time, during the time it was building this place, we weren't earning any money. So yes, I am quite heavily involved with it, but I was not the person that put up the amount of money such as he has, because I just didn't have the capital to do so.
And I think
I could just bring my name to it, basically.
Yeah, but also like you've transformed that into like one of the primary like MMA hubs in the area. Obviously very highly rated in terms of professional fighters and the coaching that the team that you've got are there. You see some of the biggest names in UK MMA kind of all settled in there talking and fighting, and it's an incredible thing you've built. So I think whilst you, like you said, you didn't put the capital in, I think you've brought other aspects to it, haven't you? Sorry, I lost my screen. Right, there we go. So how tall are you, Danny?
I was always billed at about 5'10". I think I might be slightly under that now. Now I'm reaching 48 years of age. I feel like I've shrunk a little bit, but yeah, I was always around about the 5'10" mark. And people always think I'm shorter than that because I've got quite short legs, but I have a long body and a giraffe neck. So yeah, it's normally they'll normally surprise people when we go back to back and oh, you're taller than I thought you was. But yeah, not particularly, very average.
Yeah, there you go. You're like me, mate. Short but strong. Right, Gaz, I'm going to come back to your question. That'll be the last question we'll go to, I think. Reese says, what was your recovery like after fights? Did you have things like ice baths and anything? Did you do anything specific?
No, I didn't. I was terrible for looking after my body in the right way. In my very early career, we'd fight on a Sunday night and quite often fight at 11, 12 o'clock at night. And I'd be going into work at 4 o'clock in the morning to start my postman's delivery on a Monday, limping around my delivery. So, yeah, things are so much more scientific now. There's so much more knowledge about how to look after yourself, both with weight cuts, rehabilitation from injuries. And it's so far different now. And it probably was the information to access, but you remember the internet was different back then. You couldn't just get this information. So, yeah, I largely just got bruised up and yeah, went back to work the next day and went training. I would always go training on the Monday. I was just so hungry for it. When we touch on, was I ever obsessed with things? And I was obsessed with training, and I'd go training the next day. In fact, some of the students are exactly like it. Tom Burns fought on the Saturday night. He was back in training Monday, and he blew out his ankle, so he's there hopping around, still wanting to drill techniques. But I love that passion, and we all just say, just take it slow, enjoy it. So we allow them
Yeah.
to talk a little bit more, to bask in their glory of their win. And but they want to be here, and yeah, there's nothing wrong with that, because
that's good
I too was
attitude,
like
mate,
that.
isn't it?
Of course it is, yeah.
That's the attitude you want, I suppose, you know, from your fighters, from people, isn't it? It's you want people to buy into it. You want people to be dedicated to it, because they're the ones who, when you know they've already got the ability, if you've got the attitude as well, then I would imagine they're easier to coach and sort of take to the next level and whatnot.
Yeah.
And then we had Rob says, "Do you reckon we could get a trans athlete on the show?" Look, I would happily would love to do so. I have no problem doing so. I think maybe I'm doing people a disservice because everyone's different. I don't think that they would come and speak to us, but you know, again, maybe I'm doing people a disservice. I'm always happy to have people tell their story on a My Story episode. I'm always happy to have boxers or fighters or coaches on the fight show, and whatever it may be, whoever they are, whatever their story is, whether it's positive or negative or whatever it is. But obviously that wouldn't be up to us. We just have to see and ask, and we'll see.
Yeah, I think that'd be a great thing. And like I say, I think you've got more chance of perhaps getting someone that perhaps has a view different from ours. And I'm totally up for debate. I really am. And I'm totally up for learning and admitting I'm wrong, or perhaps not so educated on a subject that I thought I was. I'm all for that. You know, perhaps someone could explain it in a way that makes it seem, oh, you know what? Perhaps I was wrong. Perhaps it is okay, and we're just misconstruing it. I think not, for the obvious reasons that, you know, times are getting decimated. Weights will be lifted heavier, as far as I understand, because I understand like the difference in the physicality once you reach puberty is there for life. It doesn't matter about what level of your testosterone is. It only has a certain impact of your athletic capabilities to a certain point. But for me, a man that's reached puberty will always be some way advantaged over someone that's born a female. Regardless of how much testosterone you put in that female, the male will nearly always be dominant. It's not just based on the testosterone levels, which is some arguments that I've had put to me when we've debated at the gym. They'll be like, "What? Their testosterone gets put down." Well, it doesn't matter. Their skeleton's still large. Their lungs are larger. They still have a bigger capacity for their blood traveling around their body and so on. I don't know. It's definitely an interesting topic that could be discussed at greater length, but I just think we should have an opinion on the other side to make it more interesting and more fair.
Yeah, Donna just said about a boxing trainer who was on Celebrity with Big Brother. So I had a look, and his course is Kelly Mahoney, who was formerly boxing promoter Frank Maloney, obviously a very famous boxer. But I would happily have Kelly on to discuss everything she's been through. Obviously, she's heavily involved in boxing as well. I will look into that and see if that would be a possibility. So as we come to the end of our little short, sharp show, mate, the question which I was saving, I'll do this question first from Craig. Craig says, what do you prefer, being a fighter or being a trainer stroke coach?
To be honest, I think being a trainer and a coach.
You don't prefer getting your face smashed in?
No, I mean, obviously it come with some great rewards. It really, really did. And I would always do the same again if I lived again. You know, I've loved what I've done, but it's to do with different eras of your life. You change as you get older as well. You got to understand that. But right now, in my time of life, being a coach is the best thing for me after being an athlete and competing in combat sports on a world-class level. I don't look back. I don't wish to fight anymore in particular. I'm happy with what I've done and what I achieved. I'm in a different part of my life now, and I'm really happy and comfortable doing what I do. I can live through the fighters that we have and still get a taste of the career that I formerly had. It's a wonderful position to be in. It can be upsetting. There can be hard times. But my goodness, the rewards are huge.
100%. So Gaz asked a question earlier, and I think it's a nice one to finish on. It says, if you could get one guest on the fight show next year, who would it be? And then he says in brackets, you can tier top 3. So pick 3, start with like the least, and then up to your number 1 pick for who you could, if you could have anyone.
Anyone.
But they got to be alive.
Yeah, of course. Hicks and Gracie, I think it'd be such an interesting, yeah. John Kavanagh, love to have him on, because obviously we've had experiences together. I just think that would be a great conversation. And who else? For a final one, this one might surprise people. Probably someone like Marco Ruiz, someone that was a big fan of back years ago. He's someone that's still apparently on the mat and stuff in training in MMA. I think he's like maybe older than me, but he's supposed to be still a force to be reckoned with. And he was someone that I largely would think was, fully well-rounded at a time when many fighters wasn't.
Yes, like it, mate, like it. I would pick Tyson Fury, Leon Edwards, and I would either go with Israel Adesanya, John Jones, or Conor McGregor. Any of those three, I think, could have a real interesting conversation. I'd quite like to speak to John Jones, just so see, because he's had so many, from a fighting point of view, one of the best ever.
Right.
But also all the things that have got in his way, he's got in his own way. So I'd really like to sort of pick his brains on that. And it's Dana White. Come on, that would be. That's,
I mean, it's so huge.
Dream, isn't it?
If you ask me this question in 6 months' time, I'll probably pick a different three. It's just I'm on the spot a little bit, and they're just three immediate ones that I would love to get talking with on a podcast format.
Donna just said you'll have to give us a virtual tour of the gym one day.
Yeah, sure.
Go do it now, mate. Come on, just give us a virtual.
Do you want me to?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah,
it's fantastic for the audio listeners. So you'll have to talk. You'll have to talk through it. For the audio
this is the changing rooms. Oh, hang on, I've got to make sure no one's naked.
Yeah, here's the changing room. Everyone's naked.
I don't know.
Demonetized. Channel gone.
Let's take you through the reception. That's the front doors. Don't know how well you can see. Then this is going into the gym.
Oh, look at that, beautiful.
That's the cardio bit. I'll take you down to the martial art area. I don't know how well it's coming across.
No, you can see it all. As you've got all the equipment and the different types of machines and weights and stuff. It's a massive complex, isn't it?
It's huge.
It's ginormous, man.
So well kitted out, and you got loads of deadlifting platforms, and I mean it goes all the way around.
I'm not surprised you have to stay there overnight, mate, to make sure no one nicks all your stuff.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And this was supposed to be a running track, but we had to use it during the COVID. And then this is the martial art area.
Cafe. Most importantly, cafe. That's what you want.
And this is mainly the striking. Then we have our grappling systems over there. That's the class I should be doing now. There's our ring. And we got these benches that are from old churches.
Unbelievable.
There's our cage.
Look at that. Beautiful.
Yeah. And I'll just show you the back room.
You got to tell them they're live on Facebook and YouTube now, mate. That's the thing.
Yep. Guys, girls, you're all live. Don't show something yet. No.
Put it away.
Put it away. And this is like a bag room.
Nice, I like it.
Yeah, I mean there is an upstairs to it, but yeah.
It's a massive complex that is, mate, and 100%. Reese wants to know what's the price for us to come and work out there for the regular viewers.
Yeah, I mean, our price formats are just done in two ways. Because we're academy, they're all martial art orientated packages. It's just that we supply the gym for free. So some people come here don't want to do martial arts; they just want to use the gym. So we always do it that it's a martial art package, silver or gold, and the silver is done at £40, and you can train everything apart from the BJJ. But when you do our gold package at £50 a month, you can train absolutely everything we got here, all the gym, all the classes. I think it's pretty competitive pricing when you see what kind of equipment we got here. If you look at some of the other gyms, they can be very, very expensive to train at.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, £40 or £50.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Danny Batten, mate, it's been, first of all, thank you very much, mate, for just fitting in, finding a bit
Sure.
of time for me tonight, mate. I know it's
Pleasure.
I know it's tricky, but
Yeah.
also thank you for sharing your story with me, my friend. It's been a pleasure kind of digging into it, listening to you a little bit, talking about all this stuff, talking about your journey, talking about your fights. I've really, really enjoyed it.
Sure. Yeah.
I will see you on Sunday
Yes.
for our last live show of the year. Last
Yeah,
fight
no
show
worries.
of the year. Have a
Yeah.
good one, mate. Thanks to everyone who's
Yeah.
tuned in.
Thanks, Si. Thanks, listeners.
Check out My Story with Joe Riley tomorrow, 8 o'clock on the YouTube channel or audio download everywhere. Cheers, guys.